Hello, Knicks family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen, and as always, we have a lot to talk about. The Knicks were 3-0 last week against Atlanta, Brooklyn, and Sacramento. We're going to break that down. Two starters named to the All-Star team, and Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. May they be a third. We'll talk about that as well. Tough upcoming 5 games. Knicks on a 5-game homestand, but this week, Memphis tonight, Denver on Wednesday, the Los Angeles Lakers on Saturday. Knicks with a really, really good win against the Sacramento Kings. Is this the Knicks we're going to see going forward? You know, we'll talk about that. And the bench, in my opinion anyway, I'm interested in what the rest of the panel have to say, has really been rounding into shape, you know, trending upward, in my opinion. Will that continue? Let's bring in Lady&TheChef. All right.
Let's go.
All right. How's everybody doing? Tony, Geoff, Lady&TheChef, how are we doing?
Peace, great. Queens. We got 2 queens and 2 kings.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Everybody's doing all right?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be back.
All right. Awesome. Happy to have you. So again, we beat Atlanta. I thought that was a quality win. We eked out a win against Brooklyn. It wasn't the Knicks' finest performance, but they found a way to pull it out. And then that Sacramento win was a quality win, given, you know, how they've been playing of late, right? They came into that game having won 9 out of their last 10, really turned things around with the new coach, better defensively as well. Then we had the Karl-Anthony Towns, Sabonis kind of intra battle, and, you know, in terms of rebounds are concerned. You know, just in terms of, you could talk about the entire week if you want. You could talk about the Sacramento game. I'll leave that up to you. Who and what stood out for you this week? We'll go Tony, Geoff, Lady&TheChef, and then Lady&TheChef, you can go first the next time, and then we'll mix it up after that. You guys know the routine.
Oh, you said me first?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna highlight Josh Hart. Most consistent Knick all year, but you know, this last game with the triple-double, the 18 rebounds, 11 assists, the playmaking, just want to give him some props, because I know we're going to talk about our all-star starters and everything. So he's the guy that really, he's the ultimate glue guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's an all-star glue guy, in my opinion. So he's the guy that stood out the most collective, you know, over the season and the stretch and the last games.
And to your point, you mentioned on the show we had prior, Knicks and BRUISES, you guys check that out, be part of the replay game. He's probably been our most consistent player, like game in and game out. You absolutely know what you're going to get from Josh Hart. Geoff, you can focus on a particular game or this week. Who and what stood out for you?
I don't know. I kind of feel like this week was kind of a microcosm of our whole season. Like, we had a quality performance against the Hawks that was kind of, you know, a statement game from, you know, because they were, I think if they beat us there, it was kind of like they owned us, and the Knicks were like, hang on, timeout, we're going to put a stop to that. And then you had the short rest and the awful performance. I know it was a win, and I'm not going to apologize for it, but the awful performance against Brooklyn. And then we had this time off where they could rest and recuperate. And I honestly felt, I think I mentioned this on the Thursday show, was I kind of felt like we were going to come out with purpose and come out with a really good effort against the Kings, and that was exactly the case. I mean, they were firing on all cylinders, and again, you kind of saw the potential of what this team could be when it's not, you know, in its Jekyll and Hyde fluctuations. But I think the win over the Kings was really, really interesting because they couldn't stop us on offense. Anybody like that, we just were able to impose our will offensively, get to the spots we wanted, get those wide open corner threes and knock them down with alacrity. I mean, it was just so. I think we saw the good, the bad, and the Knicks this week, and that's, you know, that's kind of been, you know, the story of the season. But also, let's keep in mind we're 25-10 in our last 35 games. So,
yeah,
the sky is definitely not falling.
For sure. Lady&TheChef.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of echo a little bit of that Sacramento game, like Geoff just mentioned. I think, but for me, what stood out was that we finally had a game with both OG Anunoby and Mikal, both in double figures and being very effective offensively for this team, which was a huge plus for them. I wasn't particularly happy. You know me, if it wouldn't be me if I didn't nitpick at something, but I wasn't particularly happy with the defense from the Knicks in that Sacramento game because it was a pretty close game for the most part. But what was very impressive was that the Knicks were able to capitalize and pull away and finish off the game strong, which is what we want to see from this team, right? We've seen the Knicks battle it out and be able to become warriors and fight back in games. But the fact that they were able to figure out, you know, and I'm sure Tibbs was probably in the timeouts like tighten up on the defense. You know, they're not guarding you, but you have to also guard them because Malik Monk was just going off. And, you know, I just thought Sabonis had a lot of easy baskets that, you know, I don't know if Towns is still bothered by the thumb or what, but I was impressed by the way the Knicks were able to really impose their will and break away in that game in the fourth quarter and win in the nice fashion that they did.
Yeah. I think what impressed me is that they righted the ship, so to speak. You know, we were a little shaky, you know, prior to this 3-game win streak, and they were able to right the ship and come out and get 3 straight wins, even though the Brooklyn win. You know, listen, these are NBA teams. You can come out with all the intention in the world, feeling like, you know what, we got it. We know what we need to do against this team. We're gonna get this win. And the other team has something different, you know, has something to say about that, so to speak. And, you know, me and Tone was talking about this on the show prior, is that when the Knicks against Sacramento, the Knicks offense was flowing. Like, I don't care what defense you have. Like, when your offense, you get 40 assists on 52 shots or whatever it is, your offense is flowing like that. It doesn't matter what defense you're playing, you're going to lose. But can the Knicks play offense like that every single game, right? So we don't have like the defense to fall back on. So that may be a lot to do with our ups and downs, you know, when our shots is falling, when our shots aren't falling. But in that Brooklyn game, I felt like the Knicks was able to grind a little bit, you know, just grind a little bit, grind that win out. And there's been some games in which they've lost the lead early in the season. Cleveland, which I don't know, second, third game of the season, the first time we played Atlanta, where we have these 13-point leads, these late third quarter, early fourth quarter leads, and we start losing it. And we just didn't seem to have that grit, that grind to kind of get back in the game. At least I saw that against, you know, Brooklyn. Like, all right, shots not falling, you're not playing well, defense is not great. Just figure it out, find a way to win. And that's what they were able to do against Brooklyn. And I think the second thing that stood out, and we're going to talk about this more fully later on in the show, was how the bench is just coming together, in my opinion, to the point where Tibbs even feels comfortable enough to put 4 of them out there with a starter. We haven't really seen that a lot this season. So I'm, you know, and when the bench came in, I think it was Sacramento, they extended the lead. You know, they played really, you know, really well for us. And even if you don't extend the lead, just don't fall apart, you know, and they definitely didn't do that. So I'm, knock on wood, I'm hoping that that's something, obviously benches are going to have bad games too, but I'm really hoping that that's something we'll be able to count on going forward, because that would be a huge boost to this team. Now,
Can I say two things?
yeah.
As well as the bench played collectively, I think Deuce shot the ball horribly, and as the Cam, and to me that's also props to Tibbs for letting these guys. He says you could play well without shooting well,
Right.
but for him to say that and then live that with the bench performance, you know what I mean, that shows a level of trust that he's gained in those guys.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it looks like it might be a different play on a different night. Sometimes Cam has been coming through for us, on the bench. Sometimes it's Deuce. Shamit actually hit a shot the other game. I think he hit 3 shots the other game. And, he's been getting in, earlier in the games, I think in the first quarter. So if we can get something out of him, maybe we don't need to do anything.
Don't you think the difference is, though? Think about this. Precious missed like the first 25 games of the year. Deuce has been out for extended periods of time. Shamit had the shoulder injury where he missed like the first 35 games of the year. Right. And Campaign's been pretty much there the whole time, although sometimes he's gotten more minutes than others. But, I think part of the Knicks have a bench is that the 4 guys that they intended to have on the bench are actually there and available. And so, when you actually have guys that you intended to have, that makes a big difference.
Jeff, I thought you said you didn't see the show earlier.
So do you think that this is just like, now that we're getting to the point where we're seeing like 4 in at a time, that this is just the natural progression of things? Because in years past, that's how Thibodeau would do his, like he may stagger it, but eventually you would get to the point where you would have 4 starters, 4 bench players, and a starter. So you think this is just due to injuries, just the natural progression? It just took some time to get here?
Absolutely. I think most coaches want to run 9 guys, to be honest with you. It's really, there's very few teams in the league that are just going to do hockey substitutions rather, where you're just taking out a full shift. So I think you want to have one of your starters in there for stability, and then you can mix and match those others as you see fit. So I absolutely think it's a natural progression. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Let's stay here with the bench. Since we're here, let's just stick with the bench. Are you guys okay with the 3-guard lineup? Shout out to JJ. He rocked with us a lot. He's not a fan of Cam, McBride, and Shamit, only because of height. I would think that they're just really short. Do you 3 have concerns about that, or are you kind of okay with it? Lady&TheChef, we'll start with you.
I'm torn because I feel like at any given moment, either of those 3 guys can be explosive off the bench, and they can go off and give you, a nice production off the bench, and defensively, I think all 3 proven that they can lock in when they really put forth that effort, and same thing offensively. So I think, the height is an issue, but I think that's somewhat of an issue with the Knicks in general. But we have guys that are we're seeing more now with guys being able to figure it out and help out with the lack of height. But I don't know. I think that, I heard the point about Deuce, and someone mentioned this in our chat yesterday when we went live. They said, oh, Deuce hasn't seemed like he's been right since he's come back. And I've noticed that too. But again, there's no concern there, or I'm counting anyone out. I think we saw Cam have a little bit of a little slump at one point where he looked like he was checked out. We saw it from OG, where he's been up and down as well. You had games where he only gave you 7 points, 10, 12 points, give you 17. And then the other night he gives you 33. So, I think it happens with guys, but I think those 3 in particular, I like what they can do, and I like that they can be ready and available when you need them in the postseason, and what they can possibly bring off the bench. And with Shamit, my only thing with him that I was kind of thinking about was that when we saw him knock down those 3 threes, it seems like, I don't know if maybe he's realizing that on this team, on this roster, you have to be aggressive and go and get yours and take those shots. Because when you play under Tibbs, he doesn't necessarily run offenses for those guys who are those key shooters, who are good quality shooters, as Shamit is. And that's something that I've been wanting to see from him since he's been back. And a lot of times I see him hustling on defense. And then on offense, he's kind of, it's not so much that he's being passive. He has to be a little bit more aggressive and take those shots when he gets the ball. And I'm noticing that it seems like maybe, I don't know if when he's on the bench, he's watching the game as well. I'm sure he is. And he's like, all right, I got to go out there and shoot that ball when I get it, because if not, you're not going to get yours. It's like, it's out there for the taking, but I like that. I see that. And I'm looking for him to be more consistent in that area as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on some of them shots, I would like the ball to touch his hand a little more before he puts it up. Like one or two of them shots I thought was rushed, but I agree with you. You have to be assertive. Tony, any concern about the three guard lineup? The lack of height there?
To me, it's like a cosmetic issue, because Shamit has been pleasantly surprisingly on defense from the from the preseason to now. Deuce is a plus defender. I think Cam is a plus defender. So it hasn't been a detriment. So to me, it's really about we look small, like we're small. You know what I mean? People would prefer to see a taller guy out there, but no concern, because collectively they've shown their worth. You know what I mean? Like Shamit is not being targeted out there being the small forward. You know what I mean? Deuce is not being targeted out there at the 2. So would I like a taller guy in the lineup? I mean, maybe, sure, if he's going to produce, but these guys have been productive, and especially defensively. And that was where the concern should be if you're worried about their size or 3-guard lineup. So no, they've been great defensively. So no.
Geoff?
Well, I think they've done an excellent job. I'm pleased with the way that they've played, but I think that their lack of size, if you're talking about against an elite team in a playoff series, that might be something that's more exploitable. Like if you're going up against a fully healthy Boston squad, for example, that's very tall and rangy and loves to shoot as many threes as you'll possibly give them, and it, you face somebody like that and you have a small perimeter lineup, they can just shoot over the top. And so, that's a little bit of a concern, but we give up a lot of open looks from 3 anyway. So I don't know, size may not mitigate that one way or the other. And certainly I have no problems with Josh Hart at 6'4", being in the lineup, and he's, that's absolutely small, but he plays like he's 6'9". So, what difference does it make? So, I agree with Tony in that it is, there's like an ideal that we all have for each position. Like we want our wing players to be 6'7" or 6'8" with 7-foot wingspans and all this stuff. And yeah, if you have that and you can get that and you get the production that's commensurate with that, that's great. But if the guys are playing well and it's working, then it's fine. And I can't point to, I don't remember a game this season where I was like, yeah, our lack of size on the second unit really cost us tonight. Like I don't remember that happening. That doesn't mean that it didn't. Right. Maybe it's not something I pay that close attention to, but I don't remember it being after a game, everybody being like, yeah, if only we were taller on the wing, we would have won that game. Like I don't.
Yeah. I hear that. Do you think so? sometimes I think, I mean, if I had to choose between team stand pat as far as the bench is concerned, right? Trade season is less than 2 weeks away. Team stand pat, team change. I would be on team stand pat, believe it or not, unless you're doing something significant. Just keep the team the way it is. But on my wish list, and I'm wondering if the three of you think that this is not really that important from your bench. I would really like somebody on that bench that can create their own shot on that second unit. And, maybe that's not a big deal if you run Mikal Bridges with the second unit. Maybe that's not a big deal if you run, I don't know, OG with that second unit. I just feel like in that second unit, other than campaign though, he be dialing it up for himself a lot. I just feel like on that second unit, it's just guys that wait to be set up, right? Whether that's McBride, whether that's Precious, whether that's Shaman. These are all guys that need to be, they're at their best when they're playing off of other guys. Do you think that's a big concern in a second unit, a championship second unit, or not really? Not really. Geoff, we'll start with you.
It could be. I think that you want to have as many tools in your bag as you can. Like, I'm not much of a golfer, but they have all these specific clubs, and sometimes you need the 9-iron, and sometimes you need the pitching wedge, and sometimes you need a 3-iron, or whatever the case may be. So when you have that flexibility, when you have that diversity of skill, I just think it helps you in general. So, if you can bring somebody in that can do that, I think that strengthens the bench overall. And also, I think what it unlocks is the ability to put Mikal on the bench for more minutes, and so he's not as tired. Because if you can have another guy who's kind of a playmaker, you can rest those guys more. And I think that our wings need more rest, 2 through 4. I think that I think Josh Hart could deal with being 34-minute game guy. All 3 of those guys, ideally, if you could get them in that range. So I think if you had somebody like that with what else we have, I think that you would be able to do that better. And so I think that would enhance the overall quality of the lineup and give you a chance to really diversify and kind of save the legs of some of your better players.
Okay. Yeah. So your point is not necessarily for the second team per se, but to not have to run now 2, 3, or 4 with that unit to try to create shots. Okay. All right. Lady&TheChef.
Yeah, for me, I kind of agree with what Geoff is saying, in that I think you do need a guy on the bench who can score, who can create their own. Because prior to us getting Brunson on his team, you really was just relying on that for Julius Randle. And then I think that when we played against Miami in the playoffs, there was a lot of guys that was exposed that we saw that they couldn't really create their own and get to the basket and create some space one-on-one. And the problem is right now with this Knicks team is that, and I don't want to say it's a problem, but what we see is that our bench guys, for the most part, really, you could say Brunson, Cat, OG, for the most part, the starters, they can get their own and go one-on-one and score the baskets that they need to score. And I think that can be a problem, because, kind of going back to what Geoff said, now you have to sit guys down for a couple of minutes and then they got to come right back in and be the savior and help out, so that way we don't blow the lead or let it get too out of control. So Tibbs has to pull them back in. So I don't know. I think that when I look at who we have on the bench, yeah, Campaign could chuck up those threes, but I don't really see and I was looking forward to this season, specifically for Deuce. I wanted him to capitalize, utilizing his speed that he has to get to the basket, I also don't see Deuce, and this is not a pick on Deuce session, but I don't see him and a couple other guys. I don't see them cutting to the basket enough. Who I do see cutting, and they're somehow, these two guys find their way to the right under the basket, and teams can't figure out how to stop them, is OG and Mikal, because they do it so well, and Josh is able to find them, and Towns is able to find them, Brunson's able to find them, down below underneath the basket. But I think if you have guys like do Shamit, if you're not going to be able to create your own, the other way that it can work is if you have guys that can play, that second unit can play unselfish basketball. They have to move the ball. It has to be very fluid, the offense, and they have to cut to the basket. So that way you tire out the defense. They're scrambling around. And that second unit's more than capable. They're very quick, all of those guys. They're runners. But that's the only other way that it's going to work, is if those guys are able to make the unselfish extra pass if you need to, or the extra pass, cutting to the basket, and then you get the easy baskets. Otherwise than that, this team is going to need a guy, I agree with you, Queen, who can create his own and score.
Yeah. Before I get to Tone, King John 1985, I think every championship team needs a J.R. Smith or Jamal Crawford type off the bench. Might be a luxury, but yeah, yeah. I mean, it might be a mute point when we bring the rotation down to 7 in the playoffs, right? Tony, your thoughts on that? Do you think we need somebody who can create their own shots, or you don't think and on that second unit, or that's not that big a deal?
Well, you kind of took my point. I think we could use it if we have it, but the rotation is going to get smaller as the playoff comes around. That might be an indication of why other than guys being out and working their way back in with the second unit, but that's part of the reason why I think there's heavy minutes for some of the starters. Mm-hmm. So I do agree in that sense. It could help, but I don't think it's been exposed to us or a detriment. It could be though in the playoffs. It could be if we need guys. If guys are hurt or if guys are in foul trouble, and we need guys to come in and perform and be that. But I also think we have enough switchability or mixing and matching with the guys in that first unit, mm-hmm. that I think at any point, we could throw any one of our starters in with the second unit and kind of change that dynamic. So yeah. And that's what it's going to be more of in the playoffs, second unit mixed with starters than us relying on the second unit to kind of do it. But if we have a guy, it's going to help.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Before we get to the All-Star selection, let's talk about Towns a little bit. Not his usual self since the thumb injury. Rebounding, probably he's down. I haven't checked the stats, but they might be down a little bit since the thumb injury. What are you seeing from him? Are you concerned? Do you think he needs to sit out? Do you think it's, anything he can give us? Anything he can give us is better than nothing. Just your thoughts on Cat these last few games. Tony, we'll start with you, then Geoff, Lady&TheChef.
Man, he got a bone chip. I don't know how that heals. I don't know if that's something that heals over time. I don't know if that's something that has to get a procedure at some point. So it's I'm conflicted in how I feel. If it's something that will heal on its own, which I don't see how that is like possible, then I would say
surgery though.
So
I don't think you need surgery for a bone chip. It can get worse though if you're not, if it's not wrapped properly and things of that sort. But let me double check. I think I remember reading about not needing surgery, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a non-surgical thing and it can heal, I I'm kind of conflicted because we need him. We can't really afford to rest him. You know what I mean? This is a different team when Cat is not on the floor.
Mhm.
So part of me is like, play through it, see what we could get.
Right,
He hasn't been his top self, but he's still been helping us, even in even with this injury.
right.
So I guess if I gotta choose, I'm saying ride it out right now, and you know what I mean, take a day off when you need it, and but I don't know the severity and how that heals and
Yeah.
what it takes. So
Yeah, I just reviewed it again. If it's a major break, surgery might be required. So it does depend on the severity of the chip. Usually you can pad it and like buddy tape it, and what have you to protect it. You're not going to be 100. You're not going to be 100%. I don't think the Knicks are going to put him out there in a situation that can make it worse so they can win games. That's just, you know.
but my thing is like bone don't regenerate, you know what I mean? So if it's a clean chip, it probably can't get worse, you know what I mean? If it's, what I mean, playing on it. If it's something that is chipped but is like loose and still attached, you know what I mean? Like that obviously that could get worse. It could break more. So but yeah, I would play through it right now.
Right. Knicks, what are we waiting on? Go clean it out now. I don't think that's what we're talking about in terms of cleaning
Yeah,
it out like
it's
a
not a
deep chip.
spurt.
We're talking about basically a fracture, like a chip, like a fracture. I don't think it's surgery is warranted. But Jeff, what have you seen from Carl Anthony Towns? This is a stretch that's coming up against some of the upper echelon teams. We're at our best when Cat's at his best, but we're gonna have to figure it out. What have you seen from Cat of late?
Well, let's not forget he also sprained his thumb, right?
Mhm.
And we don't know if that, I don't know how long that takes to heal either. So it may just be not even necessarily the bone chip that's in there. It may just be that it's still sprained and it's his shooting hand. So, I think that we've all noticed that his shooting is not, what it has been. And you kind of have seen in each of the games where he kind of does this and looks down at his thumb after a bad miss. I've seen that several times in the last couple of games. So,
Yeah.
but I think Tony's right. I think it's just something you're going to have to play through. This team can't really afford to have Towns out for any extended period of time. And I don't think the injury is one that's warrants concern, or it doesn't seem like the Knicks are that concerned about it at any rate. And they're not, he's a $60 million player or whatever he is. I don't think you're like, if it was legitimately risking his future, I think they would not. They would be like, okay, we're going to put this on pause. And you know what Tibbs always says, it's the medicals. Like if the medical says he can play, he's going to play. If the medicals say he's on the bench, he'll sit next to Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I've definitely noticed a difference. But just his presence opens things up for us. He's not taking as
Mhm.
many threes. I don't think he's rebounding. Um, you know, I mean, he's still rebounding for us. I don't know if it's at the same clip as before, but his presence does a lot for us in terms of opening up that lane for, as Lady and the Chef said, Bridges and OG to get those, to get the cuts. And he's picking his spots. Your thoughts, Lady and the Chef, what you've seen from Towns?
Yeah, I figured something was wrong with him for a while because every time he was either dunking or shooting the ball, he was grimacing. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with him? I'm like, it can't be a leg, a knee, ankle. And then he was holding his hand at a couple of games. I seen him holding his hand. And, I think, no, it's not a warrant for concern now. But my concern is if someone hurts him or he hurts himself dunking the ball, now we're going to be like, oh, shoot. And then it's like, well, someone asked a really good question yesterday in the chat. They asked, well, do you think that he should get surgery on it now and then be ready for the postseason? I said, but I think it depends. Diva Lock said, I think it depends on how long is his recovery time if he was to get the surgery, but I think the concern comes if he makes it worse. And now it's really because it's affecting his 3-point shooting, So I think that that's something that you have to watch. And I think that he just needs to try to be more mindful with, how if you trying to, we know you could dunk. You just don't need to do that. Just give us a simple layup, maybe a not as aggressive dunk, and just get us the points and then get back up off the floor. But it could happen even if he's trying to play defense and he swiped the ball and now that hurts the thumb or anything, or someone, a lot of times he dunks and he goes twirling, him and OG, they wind up where the camera's at. I'm like, how did you spin all the way to the second row? So, I think that's my biggest thing, is that I hope that he doesn't make it worse, that it doesn't get worse, the injury.
Yeah, I don't know if this is like Julius Randle, where it was like rest versus surgery. I don't know if that's the case with this. I mean, if somebody has a fracture, you put it in a cast, the bone heals, you move on. If it's a severe break, yes, you need you do need a surgery. I'm not sure that's the case right here. I think it's something you can play with, but you're just not going to be as effective. All right. Anything else on the last 3 games? Atlanta, Brooklyn, Sacramento. Before we move on to, you want to say something else, Tony?
I don't know if this is gaslighting or not, but what was you guys' thoughts? Because I ain't gonna lie, I was yelling at the TV when Tibbs put Towns back in the game. We actually dominated with Cat sitting late in that game. Shout out to Precious or in that fourth quarter, but then Tibbs put Towns back in late in the game with a clear lead. I think he fell on back-to-back possessions. I don't know if driving to the lane. I don't know if Tibbs was trying to get him to the 20 points, so all 5 starters had 20, or what the case was, or he sat so long and he was just trying to give him some extra minutes. But I was definitely yelling at the TV, not so much of the fact of putting him in the game, but I was just like telling Tibbs, yo, you giving them credence, you know what I mean? Like you get but what was you guys' thoughts in that moment?
Yeah, whoever want to comment.
Yeah, it goes back to my usual complaints of Tibbs. I don't get the logic behind that. And we've seen him do that with Jalen Brunson as well. We've seen it with Josh Hart. I mean, yeah, Josh Hart is always in, but I just don't understand the logic behind that. If you're up and you see the team is doing well, because I thought Precious has been coming alive as of late. He's been doing a lot of the little things that's not going to show up on the stat sheet. The aggressiveness on the defense, the just being aware. I saw a clip of him mic'd up and just him communicating on the floor and talking to guys and getting in the right positionings defensively. But I don't understand what's that about with Tibbs. I really don't. And this is why I say I don't know if with the other assistant coaches, if I saw them interview one of the Asian assistant coaches. I was like, where did this guy come from? And he was doing the whole interview. I said, wow, someone else is getting a chance to speak. Not that they don't, but I don't know if the other assistant coaches are afraid to maybe speak up with Tibbs because they don't want to step on his toes. And it's like, well, it's his team. I'm just here to back him up and keep him abreast of what's going on throughout the game. If so-and-so got too many fouls or whatever, But I just feel like, things like that. I really question Tibbs and why are you doing that? What reasoning is that for? It can't be to make a guy say, oh, because I want to help him with his stats. Listen, we have a ton of more games left. We have a whole half of a season left. Let's be smart here.
Yeah, I wasn't justifying it for that reason. I was just thinking maybe Towns was like, yo, give me 3 possessions, I could get 20.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got 14 right now. Give me 3 possessions, Tibbs. But then those possessions, you know
part
what I
of
mean?
being a coach is saying, Cat, we need you. You know what I mean?
Right.
I know you want your 20 points, but like that's not as important as, you know, having you rested and healthy and, you know, down the stretch. I mean, I think that's part of being a coach too, is being able to be honest with your players and say, no, they're not, you know, I'm not saying that that's what happened, but I'm just saying, you know, and he is head scratching sometimes. And as someone who's a supporter of Thibodeau, some of the decisions he makes regarding substitutions are puzzling.
Yeah. I don't remember that. I may have dozed off, you know, there. It's been happening a lot lately. But I will say this. If it's your time that if we're down and a team is on a good roll, you do let the momentum, you know, I'm in agree. I'm somebody who would let the momentum play itself out. If we have a huge lead and I don't need to bring a starter back in, then I'm not going to bring a starter. Like it's 4 minutes left in the game. We up 20. I know it's your time to usually come back, but we up 20. I'm gonna let you rock. Other than that, though, I'm bringing my starters back at the time they're supposed to come back. If it's not a momentum thing and it's not a huge lead thing, a consistency is important. If you come in at the 6 minute mark, that's the time you come in. Again, unless we were down and this was the team that brought us back and they're still in the midst of their run, that's a different story. But other than that, yeah, at the 6 minute mark, that's where you come out. I don't care if you were playing well. This is what we do. So I didn't see that part, but I agree. I do think there are times when overall minutes can be brought down. These end of the game, we up 20, leaving guys in until 2 minutes. In my opinion, that's unnecessary. Team is on a good run. He's been doing a better job if a team is on a run, but he doesn't let that run play all the way out until the momentum breaks. Like they still in it to the tail end of it. Here come Brunson. So yeah, I definitely I would let that run a little
mean,
more.
if I doubt you'll rewatch it now, but it was really a situation where I'm giving him props because he did sit Towns for extended minutes and Precious was playing well and kind of solidifying that the game is going to be out of reach. He comes back and brings Towns back in. First play, he drives and gets a basket, but trips over the cameraman. You know what I mean? Tumbles into the crowd. So I'm like, yo, what's going on? Then they call a timeout and throw the towel in, and Tibbs takes everybody out except Towns. You know what I mean? Like, so now it's Towns. So that was the thing. I'm just like,
Yeah, I don't get that.
come on, Tibbs, man, you stop giving them billboard material. I mean, you know what I mean? Talking points.
Right. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the All-Star team. Brunson and Towns were named All-Star starters, right? 50% fan vote, but for the past few years, the media vote counts for 25%, and the players vote count for 25%. And I think that's how Brunson was able to get in. I think he was third on that list because when they give out the first returns and the second returns, that's just the fan vote, that 50%. So between the media and the players, he boosted him up, so to speak, and he became a starter. So you could talk about that, but in there, do you think the Knicks can get a third starter into that game, voted in by the coach? And if you think so, who would it be? Geoff, we'll start with you.
Well, if there's going to be a third player, it has to be Josh Hart. Hart's been phenomenal. I mean, Tony's already, praised him accurately at the top of the show, but what strikes me is he's been our leading rebounder in 6 of the last 10 games. He's also been our leading assist guy in 3 of our last 10 games. So in addition to all the other intangibles that he brings, I think he does a lot for our offense, being able to attack the basket and put the ball in his hands and spread it out with a bunch of shooters. I think that makes us a modern dynamic offense, a playoff caliber offense. And just the number of triple doubles that he's had. I know that may not be the be all end all statistic, but I think it speaks volumes as to how much he impacts things on the court. And if you listen to other coaches after the game talk about it, they're like, yeah, Josh Hart is a problem. Like, he's the guy we have to game plan for. We've got to figure out, okay, how are we going to keep this guy off the glass? He had 18 rebounds against Sacramento. That's crazy. I mean, he's the best rebounding guard in the NBA, and he's one of the best rebounders for any size in the NBA, which is crazy. I don't know. You still got to get multiple players from Boston in there that haven't been spoken for, because I don't think they had any starters. I could be wrong. They might have one. Oh, Tatum did make it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you still, so you're probably talking about Brown's going to get consideration. Derek White's going to get consideration. Drew Holiday's probably going to get consideration. So you've got several players there. And, but again, this is a coach's pick. And I think Josh Hart is going to be a guy that coaches are going to like. I also think that Josh Hart would just as soon not be in the game and go to Jamaica and spend a couple days on the beach. But, I would love to see him rewarded. I would love to see a guy who's not, a lot of times it's just who scores is who gets to the All-Star game. So it'd be really kind of cool to see a junkyard dog just kind of get to the All-Star game. You don't see that very much. So I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, and I will say this though, Boston has been slipping of late. They're in second place, but they haven't really been playing that great. Really, really, really struggling. Lost to Atlanta when they had, the league. So they haven't been playing their best basketball. So I don't know, Geoff, if this is the year where Drew and White gets that consideration, but I definitely think Brown will be on that team for sure. Yeah. All right. Tony, we'll go with you and then Lady and the Chef. Just anything you want to say about Brunson Towns, and who would be your pick if the Knicks were to get another player? And when you think about the field, do the Knicks, I know we're homers, do the Knicks deserve one more pick at the expense of somebody else in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah. So first off, you put me on, because I wasn't aware that Towns had never been a starter in the All-Star game. So, kudos to him for coming here. We spoke about Brunson elevating his popularity and his recognition throughout the league, and him needing to do that from last year to this year. But, obviously Towns coming to New York and his impact and his recognition and the eyes on him are probably up more than ever as well. And so shout out to both of them for that huge feat. First time in 50 years, I think. So yeah, shout out to them. Do we deserve a third starter versus who would be the third? I mean, do we deserve a third All-Star versus who would be the third All-Star? I think record-wise, if we were first or second, I think we have a better argument for it. But you brought up a good point in Boston, where they are currently, they're on a down stretch of the season. You could say the same thing about Cleveland, to be honest. They're in a
3 in a row.
A down stretch of the season. And I mean, we're not on a 9-game winning streak, our best streak, but we're in the midst of a 3-game win streak. So depending on how quickly the decisions are made for the reserves, you know what I mean? If we got 2 games before they make that decision, I think our chances go up depending on if we continue to trend up and where we are. So I think that does give us an outside shot. And I haven't really watched collectively like the Cavs and the Celtics to make an argument or to be fair and say, oh, nah, he deserves it over Josh Hart.
Right.
But impact wise, I think Josh Hart has impacted the winning for us more than any third guy on either one of those teams.
Yeah. And some of these teams, like I don't think Milwaukee deserves two. That's just me. I mean, is Lillard in a vacuum an all-star? Absolutely. But I don't know. That could just be my bias as well. But I Mobley is having an all-star season, in my opinion, for Cleveland. Cade Cunningham, you look at where Detroit is right now, and he's a big part of that. And the coaches think about these things differently. I know some of us as a fan, we're like, winning doesn't matter. It's just the individual player and how well have they played this season, right? And so then LaMelo Ball would be in the conversation. But when it comes to coaches, a lot of coaches, if it's close, they do look at where the team is and how the team is. And Thibodeau said that for him, it comes down to winning. Like that's going to be what's going to separate, because there's a lot of players in the Eastern Conference who are deserving. Trae Young is having a great season as well. Brown, it's not Tatum alone that have them in the second spot. Mobley. So yeah, it's going to be a tough decision. But I'm giving Milwaukee one, and I'm putting my guy Josh Hart.
If I want to be completely unbiased,
Mhm.
I'll say this. Like, if we were talking about like Olympics and All-Star, I think he would be way more deserving of the Olympics than the All-Star, because All-Star is like top performers, right? Top numbers. And I think when you're looking at like an Olympic team, a coach might be like, all right, we need a guy like this. You know what I mean? We need a glue guy. We need a role guy. I don't know if when you're looking at All-Star selections, you're looking at the role. You know what I mean? Like you're looking at the collective, like the best guys, and then you put them in their role, as opposed to looking at a role guy who's elite. You know what I mean? So that's
Right.
it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Lady&TheChef, your thoughts on Brunson Towns, and if you had, who else do you think deserves to get it, if anybody?
Yeah, I think shout out to both Towns and both Brunson. I think specifically for Brunson, because I thought last year was the year that he got overlooked. And I don't think he was specifically looking for the accolades, but I just think that wasn't enough respect on his name for what he does. And people were having a hard time separating him from what he did playing with Luka. And then when he came here, I think people was kind of still, that stigma was still attached to, well, he plays for the Knicks, so of course he's going to play good, And then I think kind of like, it's interesting what Tony just said with Josh. I think it could go one of two ways. I think Josh would be absolutely worthy of being an Olympic player. But then it makes me wonder, on the other flip side of it is, would they pick him because he's on the Knicks? Because this is the issue that we have when we have good talent, such as Towns, such as Brunson, Josh, OG. They get overlooked because they're on the Knicks, and the Knicks still have this stigma tied to them that they're still. I think people are starting to notice and wake up, which is a good thing. People are starting to wake up and say, well, no, the Knicks seem like they're serious now. They seem like contenders now. But I think there's still that question of, but how far are they going to go? And again, we know, as you always allude to, that it takes championship teams time to get there, right? And the Knicks are moving in that direction, which is a great thing to see, and that we're witnessing. But I think that it's good to see both of those guys get voted in, and the amount of votes that they got. Now, if I would say, should we have a third guy? Yeah, if I'm being unbiased, I would say Josh Hart. But then I kind of like go back to a little bit. I heard Geoff touch on this. Josh already said it would be an honor, but he'd rather be chilling. He's trying to be on the beach somewhere. He's trying to vacation. He wants to rest. He plays a lot of minutes. I think he's like kind of like, yeah, it's cool, if you voted me in, but I'd rather sit this one out and watch it from home and chill a little bit, rest my body, rest my legs, which is fine, by me. But yeah, I think that I agree with the whole. I a list of the guys that you were mentioning. Cade, I think, is more than worthy of being voted as an all-star.
Yeah.
He's been like playing at an all-star level for sure. Trae Young, who as Knicks fans we're not, but again, just separating the individual talent in the player. There's a lot of guys, and that's how I felt last year for Brunson. I was like, yo, this guy's getting overlooked, but for Olympics, the same thing. So, there's plenty of guys in the league that for sure should be voted in. And same thing with LaMelo. He's playing really well this season as well. So, I think this year specifically, while it would be good to have Josh, I'm like, let Josh sit and rest, for me personally, because I'm like, he's been out there doing everything, being Mr. Glue guy, pickup guy, doing this, doing that. And I'm just like, I watched a highlight in the Sacramento game, and Josh Hart was underneath the basket with Cat and tipping the ball to himself. I said, look at him, like he got springs under his feet. Getting elbowed in the head, and he looking at the ref like, yo, he bumping me in my head, and he grabbing I said, look at him, just grabbing the ball, putting it back up. So, that effort doesn't go unnoticed as Knicks fans for sure.
No doubt. I think the coaches will notice it too. I will say this. I hear what Josh Hart is saying, and I believe him. He would like the rest. But if he's named an all-star, he ain't even sleeping that night. He's going to be so happy and ecstatic with that honor of the coaches voting a role player in as an all-star. I hear what he's saying, but trust me, he would be super happy.
He said he won't turn it down. He said I'd rather be on vacation, but I'll go if I'm selected. So
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah. Kudos to those two, and as we talked about on your show, Tony, the Knicks as I talked about anyway, the Knicks organization, and just really turning this shit show around in 4 years. Just really doing a great job with that. All right. Appreciate you on Deals NYK. He be on it for all of the shows. Appreciate you employing the chat to, give a shout out. Definitely comment in the chat. It definitely helps. If you're on the replay game, leave a thumbs up or a comment. That definitely helps. And if you're here, we appreciate your participation in the chat. But give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. It doesn't matter. As long as there's interaction, whether it's thumbs up or thumbs down. If some of you feel like, oh, I'm not feeling the content, I'd rather not leave anything, than to leave a thumbs down. Thumbs down is still helps the show.
If you put a thumbs down, you got to comment what you not feeling.
Right. What you're not feeling, that's true. But I'm saying any type of interaction helps the algorithm, whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. All right. We went over some trade rumors. I'm not sure if we're gonna let's move on to this week's game. Right. We're playing Memphis tonight. We're playing Denver on Wednesday, and we're playing the Lakers on Thursday. So just to give some backdrop right now. Memphis is 31-15. They're third in the Western Conference. They're 8-2 over their last 10, and they won 6 straight, right, coming into tonight's game. Denver is 28-17. They are also 8-2 over their last 10, and they've lost 1 game. Well, they've lost 1 in that, but they're on a 1-game losing streak coming into the game Wednesday. I don't know if they play before we see them on Wednesday. And then the Lakers are 25-18, 6-4 over their last 10, and they've won their last 3 games. But that juggernaut coming in here tonight, they're 5 in offensive rating, they're 6 in defensive rating, they're 4th in net rating, they are 3rd in second chance points, 6th in fast break points, 2nd in points in the paint, 3rd in points off turnovers. So fast break points off turnovers, the Knicks transition defense just needs to be on point. tonight. And to back up their, what is that, rated defensive rating, they are also third in opponent field goal percentage and fifth in opponent 3-point percentage as well. So teams don't shoot well from the field against them, and they don't shoot well from 3-point against them. Now, this is historical. Doesn't mean that the Knicks can't go out tonight and have a fields day. I'm just letting you know what, statistically what they've done up to this point. Out of statistically, between the three teams we're playing this week, they're the juggernaut. If you're just looking at the stats, what are you, Lady and the Chef? What are you looking to see tonight, and what's a key to the game for you if the Knicks are going to win this game?
The Knicks have to be able to keep up with the pace of Memphis. They're a fast team. They remind me of like a mini baby version of OKC. They're quick, they're fast, they play together very well. And if you can't stop Ja and his antics, because, let's face it, when teams and players come to MSG, it's like fashion week for them. I'm putting on my Sunday's best and I'm going to go all out. Clyde is not the only one who could dress up. So when they come to the Garden, I'm going to put up 50, 60. Stop me, figure out how you can, but I don't care. And I think the Knicks have to be prepared for that. Also, a lot of times when somehow teams put guys who we don't even know randomly off a player off the bench and comes in and wants to score 30 points against the Knicks at MSG. But I think the Knicks have to figure out how to keep up with the pace, how to not have a slow third quarter start. Don't get sluggish after you had a rest in halftime. Come out with high energy and high intensity. Start the game off with high intensity. And the Knicks are going to have to figure out how to play good defense. I don't know as far as exact matchups for tonight, but you got to figure out how to, stop a few of those guys. And their leader, Ja, he's going to go out there and be running and gunning and doing whatever he's doing. So I think the key is definitely going to be, I'm not worried about this team offensively, but defensively, they're going to have to be locked in tonight and be able to get those transition stops for sure.
Yeah, they're starting Morant at the point guard, Bain at 2 guard, a rookie, Jalen Wells at 3, Jaren Jackson Jr. at 4, and another rookie, Edie at 4. So their rookies are averaging. Jalen Wells, the small forward, is averaging 11.9 points, 3.2 rebounds, 1.7 assists. Not shooting great from the field at 44.3%, but from the 3-point line, he's shooting 39.1%, and from the free throw line, 83.7%. And Edie is basically 9.7 rebounds, 1.2 blocks a game. He's shooting 58.3% from the field, 40% from 3. I got to see how many threes he's taking per game, and only 65.6% from the free throw line. So they're starting 3 rookies, but they're surrounding them by Morant, Bain, who's a really good player, and Jaren Jackson Jr. Geoff, what are you looking to see?
Well, I think a couple things stand out to me. First is the rebounding battle. I think that's somewhere where we can really limit them. I think Edie's their leading rebounder at 7.7 a game or whatever it was that you said. So we've got 2 guys who obviously average more than that. So if we can control the glass, I think that limits the ability of the other team to run up and down the floor. And coinciding with that is limit turnovers, because we're not a huge turnover team, but we do have our stretches where we get a little loosey-goosey with the ball. So we have to, I think, restrain ourselves from trying to get in a track meet and really play the possession game as much as we can. And I think that if you can get Towns against Edie, I think that's a favorable matchup. I think he can cook Edie. I don't think Edie can stay with him. Maybe he can, but that just is a matchup that I would try and exploit. And the other thing is, I don't think that they run a ton of pick and roll which is interesting. So if that be the case, that means you're not going to have to switch as much defensively. So that means two things. One, you really got to be on your guy and make sure that you're taking care of the person in front of you. And two, they're not going to be exploiting necessarily as many mismatches. And if that be the case, I might be hiding Brunson on the rookie and try and get our best defenders on obviously Morant from Bridges and I don't know, probably Triple J for OG.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who plays Towns. Do you want Jaren Jackson Jr. getting into foul trouble playing Towns? Though Towns is not his most aggressive self as of late, right? I don't think Edie is a match, but they may do that to try to save Jaren Jackson. We'll see. Tony, your thoughts on tonight's game and what you're looking for from the Knicks?
Shout out to Lady and the Chef. Can OG and Bridges collectively play well again together tonight, right? Can they both have a good game in the same game? I think that changes things for us 100%. Shout out to Geoff with the pace. If we're at our best, I think we can run with them. But if we're not at our best, can we slow them down? Can we control the pace and slow the pace down and win that way? So and the rebounding as well. So those things for me, I think Brunson's gonna do what he does. I think Cat should be able to dominate and do what he does. Can our wings be the X factors? You know what I mean? And Josh Hart as well. Like, you're gonna have a rookie guarding you. Can you take advantage of that and expose it? So to me, it's not about the stars tonight. It's really about the rest of the guys, the wings, the bench.
The bench.
Can those guys dominate and perform tonight?
Right. Definitely take care of the ball. They're third in points off turnovers, so they definitely convert. And we're not a high turnover team, so that needs to continue. What I didn't look up is how many turnovers they force, right? Because that's that's a good stat as well. But we tend to take care of the ball, and we need to do so today. They're sixth in fast break points, 17 fast break points per game. So not turning over the ball should limit that. In fact, should limit that as well. And us getting back, like our transition defense has to be, on point. On point today. And what can we get from our bench? Will they continue to grow? Are we going to get more from Shamet, who's been not great to say the least? We're going to get, something from Precious. Like, what are we going to get from our bench? That's going to help. I don't know what Towns we're going to get, given, what's going on with his finger. I think his 3-point attempts are down, as well. So we'll see. This is a tough one. But listen, Sacramento came in on a hot streak, right? And ran into a buzzsaw. If we can do that tonight, I would be super impressed with this Knicks team. Marcus Smart is out. They got about 3 or 4 players out, none of significance other than Marcus Smart, in my opinion. Aldama is, I think, game time decision, or Santi Aldama, I think is game time decision. Matter of fact, Josh Hart was questionable coming into this game. I don't know if anyone has heard whether or not he's playing tonight. I would think that he is, but
yeah, he's playing.
He is playing. Okay. All right. And then Denver and the Lakers. Any thoughts on just this week? Your predictions, and is there anything you would like to see against Denver and the Lakers, or is it pretty much the same thing you said about Memphis? Lady&TheChef, and then Geoff.
Yeah, same thing. And also just guarding a perimeter. We have to do better with stopping teams that like to shoot lights out from the 3, or just because they feel like, hey, they're not guarding us, we're wide open. So, guarding the perimeter, getting transition stops, rebounding, as Geoff alluded to. My predictions for this week, I got them 2-1 because I feel like one of those games, if they do lose, it's going to be a trap game. And I'm not sure which one. We've done well against Denver. I don't know what's going to happen against LA or tonight against Memphis. So I got them 2-1.
But just not sure which one it is.
I'm not, because I feel like things can go either way this evening. And then the same thing, I'm confident with Denver, but the same thing with LA, which I know we can beat them, but it can be a trap game. So yeah, 2-1 for me this week.
Yeah, and we beat Denver too, so they're going to be sharp and ready.
And the same thing with Memphis. They just won 6 in a row. So they're going to look to capitalize and keep the win streak going.
Yeah, and they are, I think I have their, I wanted to see on the road. Memphis is 19-5 at home, 12-10 on the road. Denver is 19-8 on the road, at home, and 14-9 on the road. The Lakers are only 9-12 on the road, but I wouldn't put any stock in that. They're gonna be rearing and ready. I'm ready to go. I wanted to say this because this comes up a lot. When teams are taller than us. So Jaren Jackson is 6'10". Zach Edey, their center, is 7'4". And we always feel like, Tom Thibodeau has to match their height. We're going to have to go big. But you got to keep in mind, mismatches can go both ways. It's not always that the bigger team gets the advantage. The smaller team can get the advantage as well in terms of going coast to coast, while beating the big guys down the court, laying it up, taking them off the dribble because they don't have a lot of foot speed. So you can't just say from the box score that the taller team is going to have the advantage. We can actually have the advantage as well. The game, as the game goes on, you'll get to see, who has the advantage, but it's not automatic from the start. And I like Josh Hart chances against taller, lumbering guys who don't move their feet that well, because he gets up the court really quick. And he can get into the lane really quick as well, and create an advantage for us where teams have to be in rotation, and that opens up looks for other guys. Anything else on this week coming up? It is a week, and I think the other 2 games next week, I want to say, is Houston and somebody else. This is Toronto and Houston. Really,
and then Boston after that.
Okay. Really good time to see what the Knicks are made of, right? See, or another way to put it, how far we've come since the beginning of the season. Like, we're gonna really get a chance to see over this stretch.
I just wanted to say one other thing. What I'd like to see is I want to see the Knicks start to protect their home court better. Like, I've seen us lose to Detroit, Orlando, and Minnesota all in the last month, and I think all 3 of those games are games that the Knicks should have won. And so I want to see, like, and we're 15-8 at home, we're 15-8 on the road. That's fine, but I would like to see this team go on a run where we win like 19 in a row in our own building and we protect our house. And I mean, that seems like a lot, but I remember the best Knicks.
You said at home. I thought you meant in a row, period. No. I'm like, oh, that's
no, at home. Like, protect MSG, make it a house of horrors, because the crowd is behind you. There's no reason, like, it's a tough place to play. The sound like echoes through your TV when you watch it. Like, they get so loud. It's not like it's not a home court advantage. And I get that, but it just seems like in the past, the best players would come in and we would shut them down. Now the best players, like, it started in like the early 2000s. Now it's like the stage for the best players, and they just come in like Kobe dropping 60 at the Garden or whatever. You know what I mean? And I would just love to see us protect MSG and have a serious home court advantage. Not that we've done a terrible job. 15-8 is not bad, but I would really like to see us take advantage this week and have a big week and show that if you're coming to our house, you're in for some punishment. With that being said, I think we're probably going to go 1-2.
Wow. All right, Geoff. We're gonna let you come back next week. I'm
so shocked, Geoff.
I'm with Lady and the Chef. I'm gonna say 2-1 only because I feel like I don't know if the Knicks are there to take all three of these teams. I don't know if we're there yet in terms of our consistent level of play. And I'm not sure if we're a better team than Memphis. I'm not quite sure. The Knicks definitely we're the Knicks. The Knicks are second in offensive rating, 15th in defensive rating, 5th in net rating, and opponent field goal percentage, we're 18th. Opponent three-point percentage, we're 28th. And over the last 15, we're 30th. So it hasn't gotten better. Like sometimes you'll be like, oh, that's the full season. Let's check the last 15, the last 10 games, the same. You know, what I will say was a nice article by, I think it was Poston and Toaston today. The Knicks don't give up a lot of threes, though. They shoot a high percentage, though, when they get them. But the Knicks don't give up. I think the Knicks are, 7 in attempts. In terms of attempts given up, 36.4 attempts a game. So they're 7th in the league. So teams don't get up a lot compared to other teams, but they're shooting them. They only make 13.7, but still, they're shooting a really good percentage against the Knicks, 36.4%. Anything else about? Go ahead, Tony. Yeah, you didn't get a chance to weigh in.
Nah, my bad. My daughter's bringing the car back.
It's you.
2-1. I'm going. I don't know if it's tonight or Denver, but I think one of those games is really going to be a tough one. I think we could pull out tonight, though. I think Denver, they're going to be looking for revenge. So I'm gonna go 2-1 though for sure. And yeah, that's my prediction.
Okay. What's the prediction for tonight?
I think we pull it out. I think we pull it out tonight. I think the collective, the wing staff, I think they continue to have two games, two good games at the same time.
All right, Geoff, tonight.
I think they're gonna get us tonight. The Memphis is young, they're hungry. It's funny because they have those two lumbering bigs in the starting lineup, but yet that leads you into playing to a fast pace. But that's actually the way that they want to play. So it's really because they stagger lineups, they don't play their guys as many minutes, and I think that it's one of those things where our bench is really going to have to perform. And it's funny. The bench has had more minutes against Sacramento, but almost all the scoring was done by the starters. Like I think the starters scored 120 of our 143 points or something crazy like that. So the impetus and the onus is going to be on our starters, and they're very similar to OKC. As Lady said, they've got a lot of length. And they really force you into taking difficult shots. So it'll be incumbent upon the Knicks to really be smart with the ball and to do it for 48 minutes. And I'm not sure at this stage of the game that's really where we're at. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm a little leery of it.
I think they might be a little long. OKC is not really that long, other than Hartenstein. They're pretty short. But they got two in Jaren Jackson and Edie. But I just feel like we can exploit them with our quickness. But we shall see. Lady and the Chef tonight.
Yeah, I think this game may have a feel of like a playoff game. The intensity of it, I think it may come down to that, and I think it may come down to a close one at the end of the game. So that'll be fun and exciting. But I'm hoping that the Knicks can pull off a win. But going back to what you just said a few minutes ago, I agree with you. I think that the remainder of this month in February, and I would even throw in March, it's going to be a true test to see how the Knicks respond and capitalize. And especially, I want to see the Knicks go after teams and get revenge from those teams that we've lost to already. I don't want to see if you're meeting up with them 4 or 5 times during the season and you only beat them once. You got to try to beat these teams and even it up, or get the better of that team. So I'm looking to see the Knicks and really how they respond the month of February and March for sure.
For sure, for sure. And I think most of our games against Boston are ahead of us. Most of our games against Cleveland, like they did the schedule in such a way, right?
Right.
I just want to shout out a few of the chat. King John 1985. Knicks will win a close one tonight at home. Ajay showing up late as always. Tonight's going to be a tough one. Not a good matchup for us, but if we exploit our mismatches, we'll have a good shot at winning. I definitely agree with that. Who was that? Milkman 23. Love the name. We win by 10 tonight. I appreciate you. Jack City in the house. Appreciate you. Mega, it's been a minute, Mega. And I haven't seen you on Dope Soul, so I'm starting to get a little jealous. Listen, come on back home. We miss you over there as well. Jabroni Z, opposing players are way too comfortable at MSG. Appreciate you. Next 100 a GM team shooting right over Brunson staff. Okay, all right. But at the end of the night, though, I'm pretty sure Brunson is got the best of whoever. Can't wait to see Josh Hart versus Russell Westbrook. That's when we play Denver on Wednesday. Old head, appreciate you. Kareem Grant, appreciate you. Knicks 100. Well, I said A train. Perimeter D needs to be solid. Yeah, I hope you're right. Parish Duggar, I appreciate you. Bridges is the key. Yeah. Listen, man. When I watch Bridges, there's some games where I'm like, hang in there, Nick family. Hang in there. He has yet to reach a ceiling. It might take another season. We might not see it till next season. But when he's right and he's consistent, the Knicks are gonna be something else. Trust me. Shout out to Jay Boogie. All right, I'm not gonna be able to get to everybody, but you guys know we appreciate you. What's that? Big Camedy? He said he missed his parlay because Tibbs pulled cat. So you didn't have no problem with it, huh?
Yeah, he needed that 20. I seen a couple people say that earlier too.
Right. They always interview the little age. Well, on MSG they rotate. They rotate the assistant coaches coming out of halftime. So, and shout out to Jarrell. Appreciate you. All right. We out of here. Oh wow, this was by mistake. The topic is tied. If you can play, Tibbs gonna play you. It is what it is. All right, yeah. And on Dios, always rocking with us. Encourage. He's taking Ajay's role. He's like Ajay's role in the chat, employing you guys to,
hit that like button.
give a thumbs up. All right. Any last words? We good?
Oh, shout out to Mega as well. He said he's in Orlando. He moved there for work. So he out of MSG South, you know what I mean? Repping the Knicks.
All right. Shout out, Mega.
Shout out to the Podfather too, Sim. None of this would be here without him. So salute to Sim.
He'll be back tomorrow, guys. I just got the word. He'll be back tomorrow.
Nice. Lady and the Chef, when can they catch you?
Yeah, catch us on this Thursday. We'll be on at 7, and then catch us on Sunday. We'll be on around 12. Well, depending on what time Diva Locks is ready. I'm gonna call her out. So yeah. I know she's listening because she said she texted me. She said I'm gonna be listening to you guys tonight. So yeah, I know she's listening to this now.
I gotta get out of here. Peace, y'all.
All right,
Tony and the cat.
Salute.
All right. All right. And the link to Lady and the Chef show is in the description. The link to Geoff Klafter's daily sports blog, Happily Ever Klafter, that link is in the description. My link to the Dope Soul Facebook book link is in the description. If I get 100, I think I'm at 78, 80 or whatever, and then I can start back. They changed the rule. I can start back streaming to Facebook. And I'm going to be in Ghana from February 5th to February 16th. So if you're following me on IG, that's where I'm going to post my pictures. So if you're interested, subscribe to my IG channel, and I have some of my Jamaica pictures up now, but I'll put the Ghana pictures up as well. Any last words, Geoff?
That's
Nope.
it. Go Knicks.
We out of here. Appreciate
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Until next time.